した初めて悪魔を退治した気分は。実はですね、この学校は悪魔に狙われているのです。悪魔は女の子たちに取り付き操ることで学校を混乱に陥れようとしています。このままでは学校が、いえ、いずれは世界が大変なことに。そんな、もうお客様しかいないんですよ。本当は私自身が戦えればよかったのですけど、天界と魔界の協定で天使と悪魔が人間界で直接争うことは固く禁じられているのです。だからそのフェロモンゴーグルを扱う勇者としてお客様が選ばれたというわけです。悪魔を見たりフェロモンショットを打てたのもそのゴーグルの力。今私の姿が見えているのもゴーグルの力というわけですね。副作用として女の子にモテモテになったりもしますが、まあこれは役得ですね。とりあえず今日のところは悪魔の気配は消えましたので、お疲れでしょうしご自宅にお帰りになられては。明日からの戦いに備えてしっかりと英気を養うのも勇者たる者の務めですから。
Galgun 2. Galgun 2 is just around the corner, courtesy of P-Cube. It releases in a couple of weeks, and the developer is Indie Creates back in Japan. This one's been in localization for a while now. The original was released, I think, 2 or so years ago. And we've been given the ability, or we're in the process of writing the reviews and all that kind of stuff now, or at least working on them. We haven't finished the game by any means, but we are working on the reviews for when embargo lifts closer to release. P-Cube has been generous enough to let us do a hands-on impression, a very raw preview, looking at the first hour or so of footage and have a chat about our first impressions about what's changed about the game over the original and all of that kind of stuff. So we can't give a review score, we can't give a definitive you should buy this game or not, and this comes with a disclaimer that with a couple of weeks out from actual review, there is chances that some things might change via patches by the time the game releases. So keep all of that in mind as I talk about the game, and please keep it in mind if I make some mistakes as I'm playing. What you're seeing in front of you is actually the very first time I've played this game, and I can guarantee you I don't play it as well as I will have with a bit more practice. It's been a while since I last played the last Galgun 2, so I'm a bit rusty in terms of my ability with rail shooters. So yes, with all of that in context, let's have a chat about Galgun and what this new one brings to the table. So the original Galgun was a remarkably controversial game. It was banned in some countries, it was released and then banned in some countries, and there was an awful lot of opinion pieces written about it and all that kind of stuff, because it has got content which is on the uncomfortable side of things for a lot of people. I'm not going to talk about that stuff in this preview because I'm going to save it for my review, frankly. I think there's a lot to discuss about that, and it's an ongoing discussion and debate that we should be having, and it's worth talking about, and yeah, that's something that I will hold for the full review, and on top of that I want to see the whole game in action before I start to talk about it in the context of the narrative and all of that kind of stuff, because this Galgun does have a slightly stronger sense of narrative than the first. I will say that from the start. It has more cutscenes, it has more context around what you're doing, and that's probably a good thing. I'll wait and see how it all plays out, but in general, if I see narrative, I'm happy. I like to see games have context, and this one seems to be putting a lot more effort into giving the games context. So what was Galgun? If you didn't play the original Galgun, it's an on-rail shooter, and it takes the typical, you use guns to fill people with bullets, and once they're full of bullets, they die. It takes that kind of trope and inverts it, and instead of killing people, you make them pass out in ecstasy, basically. And it is nonsense. It was always designed to be nonsense. When I had a chat with the game developers at Tokyo Game Show last year, they were very much insistent on how nonsense it all was and how utterly stupid they found the whole concept, and how much they enjoyed kind of playing around with the silliness of it all. And that's certainly something to keep in mind. But yeah, so instead of having a gun that shoots bullets into people, the basic idea of Galgun was you're out there looking for the love of your life and to live happily ever after and all that kind of stuff. What was stopping you was the fact that every girl at your school, and these games are set at a school, every girl at the school was possessed by a demon thing, which basically meant that she was in love with you, and she was going to charge at you and try and give you a love note, or try and kiss you, or all those other kinds of things. So you were being constantly harassed by girls left, right, and centre, literally so, and that was preventing you from being able to find the love of your life. And you had, in the original Galgun, you had a very short period of time with which to make your way through all the infatuated classmates, and then actually find the person that was right for you. This game changes things a little bit. It's still got that same concept where all the girls in the school are again absolutely in love with you, and they're charging at you trying to give you love notes, and they're all possessed by demons. So you need to take your pheromone gun and shoot the demons away. That kind of you'll see on the screen there. The demons are floating around their head or latched onto their shoulder or whatever. You need to shoot those demons away or get them off them. And after that, you need to shoot the girls with the pheromone gun until they kind of they reach ecstasy and fall away into bliss. That's how you defeat them. They disappear off the screen then, and you're able to progress. So Galgun 2 doesn't change any of that. What it does do, it does a couple of things differently. Firstly, while it's still an on-rails shooter where you can't actually control your movement, so opposed to a first-person shooter where you've got, you can move through the world. In this one, you don't get to do that. What you do get to do is, once you've defeated all the girls in one particular area, you get to choose where you go next. And often it's only one choice. You just have to progress the way that the game wants you to in a very linear fashion. But sometimes you actually get a choice about where you want to move next, whether you want to climb a building or try and hide under a seat or something, whether you want to hide in a sewer or whether you want to stand out in the open. So you do seem to get a bit of choice about where you stand for the next scene, and that affects how the girls respond to you, whether they even see you, and it gives you a chance, obviously, to stealth take some of them out at times. Other than that, the thing that I noticed immediately was that the levels are significantly longer this time around. The original Galgun was actually easy to finish in a very short period of time, because each level was quite short and contained, and there wasn't too much to do between the levels. You get a chance to level up your character in some ways, but it was all quite simple, and the goal was obviously just to give you a minute or two to have a break before throwing the next level at you. Galgun 2's levels are quite protracted, and to the point where they actually kind of feel a bit tiring by the time you reach the end of one. It seems to be a bit of an endurance test as much as anything else to get a really good score, because as a rail shooter they're all about score, and the longer the level is, the more there is the potential that a moment of tiredness will seep in, and then you'll do a mistake and then you won't get a particularly great score from that level. So there is that endurance element this time around, and coupled with the ability to move through the levels in different ways depending on what your choice is, seems to be a fairly solid amount of replay value right off the bat with this game, which is great. The original Galgun didn't have a lot of replay value, this one does. The actual mechanics of the game are much the same. The original Galgun gave you each girl has a couple of different spots on her body, and each girl has a certain different preference, and if you shot the girl in her preferred area, she would be defeated with a single hit. That stays with this game. So you've got the head, chest, waist, and legs. Each girl has her own preference, and if her sensitive spot is the legs and you shoot her in the legs, she'll pass out immediately. Otherwise, you'll need to do quite a few shots to knock her out. And when enemies are coming at you from all different directions, you need to have pretty good aim, because you haven't got time to waste on multiple shots for each girl. The other major mechanic addition to this game, actually the major mechanic addition to this game, is the ability for that gun there to behave like a vacuum cleaner of sorts. As you'll see, the little demon things that are floating around the girls' heads, you've got two ways of getting rid of them now. You can either shoot them out, which takes a couple of shots and again is time consuming, or you can vacuum them up using that thing. And vacuuming them up is important for getting scores and things as well. It's a little bit more of a challenge. Here, you're seeing me vacuum up some demons right now. You do that, you get rid of all the demons in one go, and while there's a certain risk reward because you do need to focus on sucking those demons up for a while, it can be a much more efficient way of doing things. So yeah, that's a new mechanic to Galgun 2. It has the added effect, I guess, of also blowing the girl's skirts around, which is why at the start of the video I mentioned that this one will probably be just as controversial, if not more so, than its predecessor, and that's part of the reason why. You can definitely play with the girl's skirts in this game, as you just saw right there. And yeah, other than that, it's quite similar to its predecessor. It's very clean, it plays well. It's a pretty good looking game as far as low budget kind of on-rail shooters go, and anime games and all that kind of stuff. So it has the nice visual effect. It's built in the Unreal Engine, so it's quite well structured and quite stable, I guess. There does seem to be the odd moment where the frames jump significantly for just a split second. This frame rate itself seems to be smooth, but sometimes when you move into a new area there seems to be a bit of a loading moment, which is quite jarring to experience and can put your aim off for that first second when you enter a new area. It doesn't seem to affect the gameplay too much. I haven't lost anything as a result of that, but it's odd. It's not a technical thing that you'd expect to see in a game that's, you know, relatively low pressure on the PlayStation as this one, especially since I'm actually playing with the PlayStation 4 Pro, so I kind of don't expect those technical issues to happen. But that's such a minor kind of niggle, and as anybody who follows me knows, I'm not the guy that generally talks about the tech stuff, so yeah, it's not something that's really let me down so far. The other thing that has been added to this game is kind of side missions, which are different in terms of how they play to the main missions. And this is really important because the original Galgun was very one note. Every mission kind of played out effectively the same way, and you're doing the same thing in each of them. But this game actually adds side missions where the goals are slightly different, and while the base mechanic is still there, that you're in an on-rails shooting environment, the actual action is presented in a different way. So that's what you're seeing in front of on the screen in front of you right now. This is a defense mission. Now in the defense mission, the girls are being attacked by demons, and your goal is to defeat them before they can wear the health of the girls out. This is the very first one that I had the chance to play, and in it the girls are in 3 different spots on the map, and the demons kind of come at all 3 of them at the same time. And your goal is to move between the 3 girls and protect them and make sure that none of them have their health run out. This mission is obviously quite easy because it was the first one. I don't know how hard Galgun's going to get. There is the potential, I guess, for it to get really difficult, and that would be something different because challenge was not a big part of the original Galgun. But I get the sense in the way that this kind of submission is structured that there is going to be a real push to give kind of premium levels or optional levels or levels that you don't have to actually play, but for people who really get into the game, those levels will be there to really up the difficulty of them. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's really good. The original Galgun did not have a great deal of longevity to it. This would be one way of doing that, and if the bonuses or the rewards are there for playing well, then I don't see why this won't go down well with players, because yeah, it's a great feature. Even if, again, the action is not much different, it doesn't change how it's still on rails and it's still much the same thing you're doing, but it's in a slightly different context, and that slightly different context just gives the perception of freshness and variance to the way the game plays, and I like that. That's my favourite feature of the initial part of the game in comparison to what the original Galgun offered. The other thing that is new, Galgun 2, like Galgun, is all about developing relationships with whatever girl kind of catches your fancy. Galgun 2 has that same kind of context, or same kind of structure, but this one changes things ever so slightly by giving you the ability to do rendezvous with the girls. And when you have a rendezvous, you'll meet her in one of the various settings that the game takes place in. The one that you're seeing in front of you right now is the showers. Well, once it loads. There we go. So I'm rendezvousing with this girl right now in the showers. At this very early stage, I don't know what any of this is there for. You can't interact with her in any way at the moment. I don't have any kind of relationship with her at the moment. So really all I can do is kind of hit her with a gun and then leave. She says a couple of things over and over again to me, and that's it. But I haven't got a relationship with her built yet, and I just don't know what this system will offer in the longer term. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this will be yet another level or layer to the game that will really enhance it further. But we'll need to wait and see for my full review, I guess, before I can make any kind of real judgment on that. I do like the Whackdonald's play on the name. That's a little nonsense. Anyway, Galgun 2, that's my preview, I guess, and I haven't got too much else to say at the moment. Look forward to my review in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.